Welcome to another episode of Fantasy News. And before we jump straight into the news today, I wanted to go ahead and give a shout out to a few other fantasy content creators who do amazing work for the genre. They're ones that I love and have watched for a while, and have personally supported the channel in a few instances. And this was actually inspired by the first creator I'm going to go ahead and shout out, Ideas of Ice and Fire. He gave me a shout out on Twitter yesterday, or today for me, yesterday for you, basically saying that people should check out my channel. In return, you know what? You really should check out his as well if you have not already. Quinn makes phenomenal videos going over A Song of Ice and Fire and Dune and wider fantasy genre books, stories, and things like that. As a whole, he does a really spectacular job and really has one of the best informed opinions out there, in my opinion. That wasn't proper English, but I'm sticking with it. Thank you for the shout out, Quinn, and please go ahead and check out his channel. But another creator on the smaller side I wanted to shout out as well here was Captured in Words. Jay is a creator I have worked with repeatedly. We have collaborated for a while on World Hoppers. If you want to see some of the best edited together fantasy related or just literature in general related content on the platform, please give Jay a look. Link to all these channels in the description down below. I have no idea how he doesn't have 10 times the subs he currently does, because his content is better edited together than some people with 7-figure plus subs. Really, Jay, Jesus Christ, you put a lot of effort into your work, man, and it shows. And another creator I wanted to shout out here is a recent new friend of the channel, Hello Future Me. I can't imagine you haven't already heard of this guy, but he's the one who inspired me to review Avatar: The Last Airbender. Him and I have talked a little tiny bit here and there, and he really just seems like a great guy. He recently released a video about the mind state and stresses that content creators are under and how he's coped and dealt with it, and it personally helped me understand and deal with some of the things I've been going through being a full-time daily release YouTuber. So thank you for that, Hello Future Me, and go check out his channel if you have not already. He's much larger than me, so I imagine most of you have. But from there, let's go ahead and jump into the news. Now, the Hugo Award winners this year were announced. I don't have time to go into all of them here. Link to the winners down below. I might do a video on the Hugo Awards in the future, but it would be really the whole fantasy news to do it justice, so let's just go ahead and move on to other fantasy news. And with that, we have streaming service news, which, because of the state of the fantasy genre and the fact that streaming services are obsessed with adapting them, and my phallically challenged neighbor makes a return once again. I hate him.
I hate him so much.
Which, because of the state of streaming services and streaming services just buying fantasy IPs left and right, these two things have just kind of become intertwined. But Disney Plus has unveiled its rollout strategy, and my God, they might as well label this strategy the Netflix killer, because it is clearly what they are trying to do. If you want to get into the pricing strategy and all of that, of course, link to everything in the description down below. But basically, Disney Plus is going to be tailor-made to appeal to as wide an audience as possible, trying to grab groups that Netflix hasn't been able to touch yet, such as sports fans, by teaming up with ESPN. They're already adapting and folding in all of Hulu as well, since Disney bought a controlling share in that company, as well as bringing in so many franchises that Disney owns that I wasn't even aware of. Who knew that Disney owned Alien? What? And of course, on top of that, you have Marvel, Star Wars, the entire Disney back catalog, and much more, as well as tons of original superhero Star Wars and all kinds of stuff shows just folded in. It's amazing. Do you have anything to say about this? Disney's your baby.
I'm just so excited.
She's happy. Honestly, I can say, after all the research I've done for streaming services, the best deal. Hands down, no question.
I'm waiting to buy Hulu until Disney Plus comes out.
Disney is coming in with a streaming service ringer here. It's going to knock a whole lot of the competition down a few pegs. This news is actually what's delayed the release of the Streaming Wars Part 2, because originally I was going to do a deep dive in the current state of Netflix, but if you've been paying attention at all, the current state of Netflix has changed drastically in the last month. So look forward to the next episode of the Streaming Wars. I will be releasing it hopefully by the end of the month, and it'll be called Streaming Wars Part 2, The Fall of Giants. The next fantasy news we're going to talk about here today is an article that is covering the upcoming Avatar: The Last Airbender graphic novel, and it is calling it the 4th season the fans never got. And after reading the article, and as someone who recently finished the series and reviewed it here on the channel, I am actually curious about this. The author of the article did say it is a must-read for any fans. I don't know if this is a bought and paid for article by Dark Horse, the publisher of the comic, but it did a decent job if it was, and I'm at least somewhat curious. I'd love to know, for people who are lifelong Avatar: The Last Airbender fans. Are you excited for this graphic novel? Do you think it can fill the gap of a season 4? I don't know, but it might. And in the quickie news today here on Fantasy News, there's going to be a Resident Evil reboot. Masters of the Universe is coming to Netflix, and it will be helmed by Kevin Smith. And Westworld has been renewed through season 4, and it would be an awful mistake for HBO not to do this because, oh my god, this show is incredible. Actually, excuse me, we have 2 more pieces of quickie news. A Practical Magic prequel has been ordered by HBO. Neat. I still need to get into that franchise. Oh, and specifically, this will be for HBO Max. So for those of you who only have 2 HBO subscriptions, guess what? You need to get a 3rd. Or maybe HBO Max encompasses all 3. I think it does. I need to look into this again.
There's so much happening with streaming services.
And in the final bit of quickie news, yes, the actual final bit of quickie news today, the Sci-Fi channel has canceled the show Krypton, a Superman prequel, and canceled their upcoming Lobo spinoff because, you know, DC seems to be re-strategizing and trying a whole lot of new things right now, so I didn't think their TV shows that were out there just kind of floating on channels that are not their streaming service would last much longer. I think pretty much anyone could call this because I didn't even know there was a Krypton show, let alone a Lobo spinoff in the work, and I think I might have even covered the fact that a Lobo spinoff was coming down the road at some point here on the channel, and who cares? Who's watching these shows? If you are, let me know if they're good in the comments down below. I'm actually curious. But in some very interesting good news for DC Comics, the director of John Wick, a very well-known action stuntman coordinator, will be helming the action sequences in the upcoming Birds of Prey movie. And this is yet another thing that has pumped some air into the lungs of the DC universe, in my opinion. I don't have high hopes, but I do believe that DC can deliver us some more quality content in the future. I do not believe they will ever be on the Marvel level at this point. They have disappointed too large a portion of the superhero fan audience, but, a few hits could come from their barrel yet, and I'm excited to see if they could manage one, especially with Birds of Prey, which will stand out in the flood of superhero content. Just please, for the love of God and all that is holy, do not give your movie to a trailer editing company again, something they actually did for Suicide Squad, and it's why that movie is edited like hot garbage. They actually did that.
That explains a lot.
There you go. And Rian Johnson has come out and commented on his upcoming Star Wars trilogy. Yes, Disney has not backed down. Rian Johnson, the creator of widely considered the worst Star Wars movie since the Disney reboot, has still got a trilogy in his future. Interesting. I honestly would have called them just letting it slide into the shadows and not giving it to him without ever announcing it was canceled, but it seems this is still happening, and he says it will go beyond the legacy of the characters. Now, I very much so agree with Red Letter Media's assessment of The Last Jedi. It seemed like a movie written by a high school student, but a very intelligent, capable high school student. And I do believe Rian Johnson could create a good Star Wars movie if he was just the director and not the writer. He cannot write a Star Wars movie in my mind. And I hope the guy the best. I never wish for failure, so hopefully Rian Johnson does deliver us a truly stellar Star Wars trilogy in the future. And I have complete faith that will happen. In the biggest what the news of the day, Netflix is delivering us an Elvis Presley super spy TV show.
Why?
I don't know. And in the final bit of news I want to cover here today, George R.R. Martin has come out and doubled down on the fact that he will not be changing the ending of his books. This seems like a point he is constantly having to reiterate. Fans are badgering him online, Twitter, etc., what have you, to change the ending of his books from the TV show, which is claiming to be heavily based off the actual ending of the books. And people are saying, oh, they've said it's so close, George R. R. Martin has to change his ending because his ending is not going to be satisfying because the TV show was not satisfying. And what I can say to that is the showrunners condensed multiple books, what should have been many seasons, down into a season and did not have George R. R. Martin's writing to pull from, so their ending sucked. And George R. R. Martin is someone who has crafted one of the best fantasy series of all time, and he has 2 books to do it, not 1 season of television. What I can tell you is his ending will have better reasoning for the characters, better realized motives, less inconsistencies, and fully fleshed out story arcs that aren't hurried. So if anyone can earn this ending, maybe it's one of the most respected fantasy authors of all time, and people should stop harassing him and just have faith that the person who built A Song of Ice and Fire so far can finish what he started, because he certainly knows how it's going to end, and we're getting rather close to the rumored publication date, which I've previously covered here on Fantasy News. This has been your Fantasy News. Let me know what you thought of the stories I covered here in the description down below. Like and subscribe if you have not already. Buy some Fantasy News merch if you want to represent and support the channel. Have a good one, y'all. Peace!